All right, let's jump right into this explainer and unpack what honestly looks like a truly revolutionary approach to system safety. It's called the energetic paradigm, or EP for short, and it completely reframes a massive, massive problem we're facing in tech right now. As our systems get smarter and our analysis gets stronger, how in the world do we make sure that power isn't immediately stolen, distorted, or turned into a unilateral weapon?
The core tension we're starting with today is that whenever a framework, or really any analysis method, becomes truly effective at seeing into a system, bad actors will inevitably try to turn that insight into a weapon. It's almost a rule of gravity at this point. Many methods, the second they prove effective, are immediately co-opted. Think about it. A powerful system analysis method can predict behavior, right? Well, that means it can be used to manipulate. It can identify vulnerabilities, which means it can be used to guide attacks. The absolute greatest danger of a highly effective framework isn't that it fails. It's actually that it works so perfectly that it allows a few individuals to monopolize that understanding, suppress others, and unilaterally expand their own power. So that brings us to the big, central question of the energetic paradigm. How do we ensure that seeing deeply into a system doesn't just hand attackers a literal roadmap to destroy it? EP completely changes the conversation from how do we make analysis stronger to how do we make strength structurally harder to misuse. It's not just about looking deeper anymore. It's about making absolutely sure that an increase in control doesn't automatically become out-of-control dominance.
Section 1. The danger of insight. Unbound capability.
Unbound capability is, frankly, a massive threat. I mean, if you can predict something, you can manipulate it. If you identify vulnerabilities without actually fixing them, you're essentially just drawing a treasure map for attackers. If you decode a narrative, you can manufacture advanced deception. And if you understand incentives, you can structurally control entire groups of people. The danger here is that the exact same insight used to fix a system can be used to break it. Without constraints, deep insight is basically just a loaded weapon left sitting on a table.
Section 2. A self-protecting framework. System stabilization.
Now, here is the absolute breakthrough. EP flat out refuses to accept the old way, where insight just exposes flaws for anyone to exploit. Instead, the energetic paradigm demands that any deep understanding must be actively converted into a higher degree of system stabilization. It entirely rejects the idea of just finding loopholes without taking responsibility for actually fixing them. If a framework just makes you better at attacking but it doesn't make the system harder to crash, well, according to EP, that is not a complete or mature analysis, not even close.
So EP is essentially what we call a living control architecture. It literally transforms analytical insight into a strict governance duty. You aren't just uncovering how a system works for fun. You are structurally obligated to lower risks, build defenses against weaponization, and clarify chains of responsibility. It moves entirely beyond what we think of as ordinary system analysis.
Section 3. Turning analysis into defense, the defense conversion rate. I want you to really focus on this concept of the defense conversion rate. The true measure of maturity in AP isn't about who has the smartest commentary or who can sit back and point out the most flaws. No, it's about who can turn their understanding directly into clear permission structures and much smaller exposure surfaces. Every single bit of deeper understanding has to lead to better traceability and higher thresholds for system failure. To actually pull this off, you know what EP does? It completely throws out the fantasy of neutral capabilities. If you give everyone the exact same powerful tools in the name of fairness, reckless attackers are always going to exploit them faster than defenders can react. Why? Because attackers take risks and defenders follow rules. That is exactly why EP's capability engineering is explicitly, unapologetically biased toward the defense. It prioritizes stability, auditability, and patching way over creating universally accessible control tools. The whole goal is to actively shrink the attacker's asymmetric advantage.
Section 4. Binding capability to responsibility.
Because let's face it, effective knowledge is highly sensitive. EP utilizes layered access gates. It completely moves away from flat, universal access. At the public layer, the focus is just on spreading basic risk awareness and identifying power packaging. Then, the professional layer dives into governance design and risk modeling, which requires a specific professional background. Finally, you have the highly sensitive layer. This deals with system control and critical vulnerabilities, and it is strictly welded to intense auditability, liability, and the ability to instantly revoke capabilities. EP layers access not to hide knowledge, but to prevent knowledge from ever being separated from responsibility. Look at how this breaks down. We all know those organizations that just love to plaster vague safety buzzwords all over their websites. But EMP demands hard, verifiable outcomes. Did the accident rate actually go down? Are unauthorized leaks reduced? Is there high traceability? If an organization just rebrands their chaos with EMP terminology, they aren't using the architecture. They're literally just wearing it as a disguise. The takeaway here is absolutely crucial. High capability is not a reward, it is a heavy, heavy responsibility state. By legally and structurally binding power to liability, EP makes acquiring high-level insight incredibly uncomfortable and unprofitable for malicious actors. Bad actors want high yields with zero risk, right? Well, EP flips the script. If you want high capability, you must accept massive, structurally enforced accountability, peer reviews, and the constant threat that your access will be revoked.
Section 5. The 4 control pillars. Safety architecture.
Think of this like a 4-part puzzle. These are the interlocking systems of EP. First, you have the insight system, which sees how risks accumulate and how narratives mask reality. Second, the defense conversion system, which turns those exact insights into isolation designs and operational stability. Third, responsibility binding, ensuring power can never detach from liability. And fourth, self-immunity. If you remove even one of these pillars, literally just one, the entire safety architecture collapses back into a dangerous weapon. Now, what is super fascinating to me is this self-immunity piece. It actively protects the framework from being hijacked by authority figures who just want to use the terminology to mask their own power grabs. The more someone claims to understand EP, the more intensely their results must be cross-validated. It strips away any assumed natural legitimacy and demands hard, concrete proof that their actions are actually lowering the chances of unilateral dominance.
Which brings us to a hard truth. Safety requires structural architecture, not a reliance on human morality. EP honestly admits that effective knowledge is always going to attract bad actors. It's just inevitable. And that is exactly why the defense lines are built directly into the system's architecture, through those layered access gates, audits, and capability revocation, rather than relying on the naive, fragile hope that people will just voluntarily behave well.
Section 6. Rewriting the arms race. Pricing recklessness. So, by totally flipping the yield structure of technological advancement, EP ensures that reckless unilateral expansion actually becomes cost-prohibitive. In the old arms race, the advantage always went to whoever moved the fastest and broke the most things. EP changes the pricing of that race. High-risk capabilities now come with massive governance and compliance liabilities attached. EP makes reckless incredibly expensive and makes stable, traceable, and controlled the absolute most advantageous path forward.
I want to leave you with this really powerful paradigm shift. The greatest achievement of the energetic paradigm is proving that effective knowledge does not have to become a weapon by default. If capability is tied to responsibility, verification, and defense, then stronger analysis can actually raise the cost of misuse instead of lowering it. So the question I leave you with is this. As your own organization builds smarter systems, are you merely increasing your insight, or are you structurally increasing your defense conversion rate? Think about it. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.